Mika. I apologize.
Mika and I are going to share in our presentation, so we
That makes sense.
can jump in now too. But it's good to be with all of you. I've so enjoyed these spaces and learning from this group and just having a community of best practice. Part of that too is why Mika, my colleague here at People First Economy, we're in Michigan. We have our Local First West Michigan program and Good for Michigan program housed under our organization. Part of that is why we wanted to tag team this. Mika has been with the organization a few more years than I have and has been the head of our project for a number of years. So I'm the engagement director here, supporting both of our programs. Mika, do you want to say a little bit more about your role with the org?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. My name is Mika, and I'm the marketing director for People First Economy. As Kathleen said, I've been with the organization for roughly 7 years or just over 7 years. And the annual report is literally my favorite project. So I'm honored to be here to talk about it and brag about it and get some best practices from you all too. I've been looking at your reports and they're all really beautiful. So.
Yeah, we've been running this report for as long as I can remember for our organization. Mika, maybe when you jump in a little later, you can give some more specifics to that if you have them. But our organization opens up our annual report season and gathering content for a number of reasons, several of which folks have already spoken to here. So that's exciting just to see that we're all kind of on that same page and building and gathering information for similar groups of audiences and people. I think to our organization, we have a couple visuals we'll show you later, but mostly are hoping just to open up the conversation and dialogue, sharing some context here this morning or afternoon. We really are looking at our annual report for a couple of core audiences. We're thinking when we launch this project each year about what internal metrics this supports us with, as well as what external metrics this report will aid us with. And so when we jump into this, we're similarly looking at gathering up what we've done for the latter portion of the year, so report on the year prior, the full calendar year. So the report that we're working on now will cover 2022. And this is something that supports us because we're able to look back at a prior year worth of work and start to think about, what has worked really well for our organization and what we have the opportunity to improve as we move forward. But it's also a space too where we can just reflect on the different types of bodies of programming, initiatives, and other things that we have accomplished together. So it's a tool for our team to celebrate, reflect. We can share it with our internal stakeholders like our board and program committees as well. And so it's a great kind of collaborative piece that we can share with those folks to showcase the body of work. We also utilize this report in several of our other marketing communication channels. And so a big piece for this too is just helping us create content that we can share for the next period of time. A big piece for that too is helping us gear up toward our annual meeting. So once our report is completed, we have a more public forum where we share that and gather people together to celebrate and just talk through what our past year's worth of work has been and our vision for the next year to come. And so we really use that tool as the crux of the talking points that we really want to work through, the different ways that people could engage at that particular gathering with us. And so in that same vein, we feel like our annual reporting aids us with several external markers. One of the bigger ones for our organization the last couple of years has been the fact that we've done some restructuring of our programs. Historically, folks have known us solely as Local First, the organization that holds Local First West Michigan, the program. As we brought in a couple of other pipelines for businesses to get engaged, we found that it would be constructive to start to organize those bodies of work underneath a joined title. So we now go by People First Economy that houses both of those program areas, Local First West Michigan and Good for Michigan. And so this report is a way for us also to kind of hit two different milestones. We want to showcase how all of this work pulls together to support a People First economy, how these programs are connected, but also uniquely how each is aiding the project or aiding the work. So that's a core goal for us with our external stakeholders. I think Jen, you already mentioned this too. When we approach this, we're also thinking about ways that our tool can be used with onboarding and retention. So when we have new member meetings to bring on new businesses who are working with us, when we're reconnecting with people who've been with our organization for a period of time, soliciting sponsors, welcoming donors to be a part of our work, we can pull from this resource, walk through it with folks. And so it winds up being this really nice holistic piece to look at our organization in one snapshot. As mentioned, it's a great external tool for our stakeholders. So we're really wanting to make sure it gets in front of our member businesses who we're responsible to, localists, so those consumers in our community who can make intentional choices with where they're purchasing, what types of businesses they're supporting, generally out with our community partners, funders, and all those folks who want to support the movement. Someone else, I think, mentioned this, maybe Liz, this was something that you had mentioned when you were hopping in, but this is a great way also for us to thank our sponsors. So people who have been a part of our work, we can mention them, reference them in our reports, make sure they either have logo placement if they've been funding us, or depending on the format, we can give them verbal or vocal appreciation for the ways that they've aided us. So those are a few of the things internally and externally that we're looking at when we start to approach this project. Mika, do you want to jump in and share a little bit more about how we produce the annual report?
Yeah, happy to. As I was putting together this timeline, I chuckled to myself because the process for it, as we all know, like we're kind of always doing everything, right? Like it's hard to be like, I've spent this much time doing this project and this much time doing this project. So the annual report usually starts as soon as it's done, right? So I start thinking about the next year's report and start like building out, obviously learning from the production of the previous year, like what would be great to be sort of preemptive and capture for the next year in our programming. But that's not super realistic to talk about in a presentation. So realistically, the planning for this piece does start in November, and it's pretty casual at that stage. I start having conversations with staff about like what they really thought was impressive this year, or what they are really proud of, and that kind of starts the creative juices flowing around, what we did and sort of the standouts, because again, we can't cram all 365 days into one print piece, so it really helps capture what bubbles to the top. So that's in November. I start gathering the reports and pulling the reports in December. And that again kind of keeps those creative juices flowing and helps me create an outline for all the different things that I want to include. And then, so I spend December doing that. Obviously, as we all know, we're doing a lot for the holidays around that time. So it kind of gets woven in between doing that campaign. And then we go on break. And when we come back, I have a meeting set up with our designer, and we start the process after we come back from break. So November, December, and into January, I just had the meeting with our design team yesterday, and we're really excited about this year's project. Like I said before, this is my favorite project to work on. Because it sort of summarizes everything that we're proud of, right? And what better way to start off the year than to really reflect on everything positive that you've done. So again, I just had that meeting yesterday, and I asked them too, in kind of preparation for this meeting, I told them that we were going to present on this today, and they were really excited about it. And I said, well, what sort of timing can I give folks? Like, how long does this take to put together from start to finish, right? And as I said before, that's kind of hard to define, but they gave me about 6 weeks. And, but then looking back on my email thread, it ends up being about 8 weeks. And that's not including the November and December, like pre-planning. So again, give yourself lots of time, lots of space to work on this piece in order to really bring up the most important and most relevant information, and get lots of feedback from the staff about what they're proud of, because you want them to be proud of the piece as well. And as Kathleen said, we typically present this piece at the annual meeting as sort of a way to segue into the event itself, right? Which is talking about what we've done and what we're planning to do in the year ahead. So as far as, getting people to read it, man, do I resonate with that. the whole premise of leading a horse to water, and then you got to push them in the water to get them to drink it. But so what I've learned from that is, obviously you can't make people do what they don't want to do, but you can provide several different opportunities to engage with the piece. And so that's what we've tried to do in the last couple of years, is obviously do this big splash at the annual meeting, and then provide different little snippets for people to take in the different pieces that are more relevant to them, either, like Kathleen said, with onboarding or recruitment or retention. Anytime a person has a question about the organization, give them this report and be like, on page 6, you'll see da 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 da. So it is more of that like ongoing basis. And that's something to keep in mind while you're producing the piece as well. Is like what questions need to be answered, or what do people ask about our organization that we wish we had a visual aid to give them, right? Something quick to attach to an email. Something that we've been doing also, and this is something that we do for all of our initiatives, is that we will reserve a little bit of space in our email signature to link that report. And it varies depending on what time of year it is. Sometimes it's our Nourish Our Community, sometimes it's Indie Week, all the different initiatives that we do throughout the year. But that's another like small insertion that you can do on an ongoing basis that helps people stay engaged with this print piece. I think that covers the production process, and we can go into questions and format a little bit later. But I think, Kathleen, you were going to go over the different formats that we've used throughout the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure can. One of the things that we're really fortunate to have with the support of our designer is an opportunity, once information's gathered in November and December, we're pulling reports which look like the demographics, the folks that we're serving. It looks like number of touch points. It looks like reporting on our campaigns. It's really fully encompassing of what folks have done with us throughout the year and how we've worked to support our member businesses who are with us. We're able to share that with our designer and get a sense from them on what's going to be most visually appealing, what formats we can bring that together in. And so we've actually had we really have 2 core formats that we've used over the last number of years. And we're considering, as we're tailoring our final report this year, a couple of different ones, which are exciting. So we've in the past had, more historically over a longer period of time, we've had a PDF document that we have provided for our members. We bring that to our annual meetings. We bring that to basically everything that we do throughout the year. So if we're tabling somewhere, and Mika, I think maybe we have an example if you want to page through one and pull that up. We'll bring that to our coffee hour events, where we have a casual coffee hour with our members. We'll bring that to sponsor conversations. Again, as Mika said, trying to, as much as possible, think about the types of questions or interactions we might have and be able to use that report to demonstrate those answers, those questions, or point back to how we facilitated this body of work. So this is one of our more recent reports. So as you page through, we have a general organizational overview, a little bit about who we are, our board, our team, who's accomplishing this work. And then we want to dig into our program areas. So this is a page where we've talked about who our membership is, the goals that we've had and held for our membership, ways that we wanted to engage our folks here in West Michigan. And then here at the bottom too, you'll see sponsors for Mixers, the various events that we have been able to hold. So that is a big piece to be able to say, we'll make sure that you are annually recognized in this report. These are all the various events that we've had with Local First. And then we have for other program areas, our Good for Michigan overview. Again, very similar types of data. Who is participating with this? In what ways do they participate? Are they a Good for Michigan participant? Are they a B Corp here? What kinds of events have we used to engage those groups of folks or gather and create community for best practice? We also hold an awards ceremony for our businesses participating here. So it's another space where we can honor folks who are really excelling in some sustainability areas here within our state. Perfect. And then how we've shown up in the community as People First Economy. So times that we've had available to get in front of our community, present on our work, and really showcase with various stakeholders who we are. So this is just an example of one PDF that we've used in the past. We're able to ask our designers things like, should we use a pie chart? Should this be a graph bar? Like what should this look like? And they're able to point us in the right direction there and help us understand how to compare and contrast the data from year to year. That's a big aid to us. In the pandemic, we have been able to use a video format for this and really get a little more narrative in this piece. And so that has also been really fun and interesting. I think we're going to attempt to play it, but also a little bit of grace because it's been a while since we played a video on a Zoom. So
my main concern is that y'all can hear it because there is a voiceover. So thumbs up, thumbs down if you can hear it when I start it.
In 2003, 7 Grand Rapids business owners got together because they knew there was
Oh no, it stopped, Mika.
Yeah, we can't hear it anymore.
It's probably because I muted myself, so that's
spans
why.
the entire state of Michigan. We've grown up a lot in the last 19 years. The Local First program has demonstrated the business case for place-based economies and gave us a solid foundation to have the conversation about how business can be used as a force for good. This foundation has been a catalyst for the Good for Michigan program, which has given us a seat at the national and international table. And we're creating more seats as we go. The People First Impact Project, which is currently in the pilot stage, is connecting business owners to the policies that impact them most so we can create positive change together. And together, Local First, Good for Michigan, and the Impact Project are creating a People First economy. Here's how it's going.
All right, that was the piece that took 8 weeks.
Yes.
And probably a few years off my life.
It does take some time for the animation, particularly. It does take some time, particularly for the animation.
What? Oh, no, it started playing something else and I had to stop it. What have I learned?
The animations component is particularly what takes time with the video for our designers to put together, but we've appreciated how much that's interwoven the programs to our larger new organizational name, and again, demonstrated the strength of each program independently. I'm cognizant that we want to pass it on to Jordan here soon, so I'll just wrap up this piece particularly saying that this year we're considering a couple of new formats, some being like potentially a foldable poster that we could put up in various spaces people could easily bring with them from our annual meeting. As well as tailoring potentially our annual report video component so that it has that complementary poster, but maybe showcases more of the photos and video content that we've taken throughout the year and where we've shown up. Mika, do you have a few concluding thoughts on other things we've learned before we pass it off to Jordan?
Yeah, I will definitely put links to all the stuff in the chat. I would say departing thoughts are that it's really difficult to learn what level you want your annual report to view, like bird's eye view. If you want to get into the nitty gritty, we have definitely opted to keep it pretty high level and make the information just really broad and really not broad, but more encompassing. So we have different reports for the different initiatives that we do. And so we refer back to that for those that really want to get into, like, if sponsors really want to know, like, what impact does this initiative have, we give them that. But for the annual report, we try to keep it high level, and that does present a lot of challenges. You know, you can't include 365 days of information into one report. So not all of it gets included. So give yourself a lot of grace and, you know, be really communicative with the staff. And I think that's the most important thing. And really know what the mission is of the piece and keep to that.
Thank you guys. That was awesome. I'm like blown away. But yes, if y'all could drop the link into the chat, that would be awesome. So we can just put our name in there and say we did all that stuff. It was an impressive video. Thank you guys so much. And it's interesting to have those different formats, because when I first put this call, the idea for this call, I was just thinking of, you know, print annual reports, et cetera. But then when I started looking at other IBAs and what they produce, you know, came across your video. And so definitely wanted to have you guys. And I know there's tons of other awesome annual reports, but we just chose 2 to focus on, and then want to have everybody else kind of chime in as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jordan and her counterpart as well there at Low Country. And there's some other ideas.
I wish I had gone first, because that felt like a grand finale showcase. That's so cool. And I'm very inspired. Our graphic designer, who I'm very fortunate to have, and she's part-time, but she does like 4 times her workload in that part-time. And she deserves 99% of the credit for our annual reports, but she does not do animation. So we would have to outsource that. And but I'm intrigued. I love that. Mara, who was popping on and off, I don't think she's on right now, but she just joined last week as our brand new events coordinator. So I think she was joining mostly just to sort of listen in, get to know what Amoeba calls look like, and hopefully she'll be able to join some more, particularly as they're more focused on events. But we're thrilled to have, she's the first person we've had on our staff focused on events. So yay. Low Country Local First is a membership-based Local First group in Charleston. We've got around 550-ish members, give or take. All sectors, all industries, all across our Low Country region. Our staff is around 10 people deep. A few of those are part-time, but we do have around 7 core full-time staff members who are actively leading program areas or doing things like economic development work and advocacy efforts. I'm the director of marketing communications, so the annual report has fallen in my lap for several years now. I joined in 2015 as a staff member and have helped lead this effort for many years. I'll share a little bit more about the formats we've used. And I do have a part-time graphic designer that, again, I would probably quit if she were to leave. She's just like my clutch for a lot of things. And we have a newer team member who's a communications coordinator that assists with communications related projects. So she's involved with some of the sharing out of our report once it's complete. She also does some of our grant writing projects. I think she gets to glean a lot of what goes into these reports for grant reporting purposes throughout the year. I am going to share my screen. There's not a lot of words on my PowerPoint, but there are some visuals that should help a little bit. Again, I don't think we're doing anything terribly groundbreaking with our report, but I do know there's value in just seeing what other people have going on. So I will share
a
few slides. So we have talked about who we are. We do a pretty wide variety of program things in our organization. Our biggest program area today is focused on Community Business Academy. So we train entrepreneurs, particularly if they're in the low to moderate income brackets, how to start and grow their own local businesses. So the power of ownership is a big focus of our work across the board. That initiative has grown tremendously over the last 3 years. So it's naturally like feeding back into our broader membership work, and the issues and hurdles that they face are really guiding the work that we do outside of that academy. And it's now a bigger and bigger chunk of what our annual report focuses on each year as that program really has expanded. What you'll see on the next several slides are more just sort of the cover of our annual report. So you'll see some of what those have looked like in recent years. And then there's a few slides at the end of some of what the inside pages look like. For us, our annual report is not too dissimilar from what you just heard. It's definitely a tool used internally and externally. It's not terribly helpful for us in terms of onboarding members at this point, but I love the idea of exploring how we could do better with that. It's definitely used more with board member recruitment and retention, and certainly with donors. The way that we utilize this and create our timeline for production is really centered around our giving day. So theirs is more around the annual meeting, which is a really great way of releasing that too. We don't currently host a big annual meeting for members at the beginning of the year. We have kind of a bigger event in September, but for us, we do a spring giving day campaign, and we utilize our annual report to help give that some more life. We call it a giving day. It's really kind of a week giving day campaign. A lot of the donations that come in the whole week leading up to our giving day are counted towards our match offers. So it gives us a week to really focus on releasing our annual report, teasing out top nuggets from our impacts shared on social media and through newsletters, and then really culminating in our big giving day effort. So that guides the timeline that I create for production, backtracking from when we know we're going to have our giving day back towards when we know we need to go to print, when we know we need to have drafts ready, all of that stuff. I do, similarly to People First Economy, start thinking about our annual report process at the end of the year for the following year. I take advantage of the fact that we do a little end of year fundraising campaign to go ahead and get in that headspace of looking back and having our team gather their wins for the year that they're the most proud of, and not just the data points, but I have them start thinking about the stories that they would like to see included, a brief testimonial they would want to help gather, or a connection that was made that just proved to be really invaluable for the community. So all those sorts of things really do start to happen really in December for us before everyone heads out for break, because that helps us gather like a really brief end of year summary that's utilized in our end of year fundraiser campaign. So it helps to come back in January with a little bit of a guide or a bulleted list of wins from the team that we can use as sort of a base for the report content. I do lead the timeline process. I create the outline for what we know we want to include. And then I do task our team members with helping provide some of the content that goes into it. So I tell them that they don't have to write in paragraph form. I say, give me, 5 or 6 of your bullet points that you are most proud of from your program area, and 1 or 2 more story-based, more human stories that came out of your work last year that I could consider including. I lean on our executive director to help with the financial piece, so she's pulling a lot of those end of year financial reports that go into our pie charts at the end that I'll show you. And then it's really a pretty hands-on experience with our graphic designer of going back and forth and saying, okay, I've cleaned up the content that is going to go into this. Let's look at this together, and you can tell me where you need more and where you need less. It's hard. It feels like you have to pick your favorite kid sometimes, of like, but we did that other great thing. We just doesn't fit here. Like, how do we prioritize all of these good things? But you can find other places. I will say, as helpful of a tool as an annual report is, it does, it's not the only tool we use throughout the year to share out what we're doing. We've tried to do consistent quarterly reports, particularly for grantors or donors, key funders, that are 1-page snapshots of like, hey, here's the last quarter's like wins we wanted to share with you with some pictures or a quote. So as you're creating this, just know that if you feel like you're leaving stuff out, maybe you can find other ways throughout the year to share out those pieces. Let me skim my notes to make sure I'm not forgetting anything on process and timeline. We do, most recently, the format is a 24-page saddle stitch booklet. So we do print it and share it online digitally. There were a few years, oddly enough, prior to the pandemic, you think we would have done this reverse, but really leading up to the pandemic, we were doing a more digital website based. We would create a custom website that was essentially like a scrolling timeline of visuals and like impact stats for what we had done in the last year. It was called thestateoflocal.org. And for a few years, we would just say /2015, /2016. You could just see the work we had done. We utilized a website version of an annual report to do our 10-year look back, which was helpful. The format we used for content on that was a problem solution for each of the year, like our top problems solved in those first 10 years of our organization, with lots of visuals and video links from our work. We let that go. It just became a little bit burdensome to keep maintaining that and use it the way we wanted to. So we went back to good old print. So I think a takeaway I'll share here in the middle is just to not be afraid, again, to try different formats. Don't be afraid to let something go that is just not serving you as well anymore. Don't feel like, but we've always done a website or we've always done a PDF, or, you know, like you can change it up, and it's okay to try out different formats. I want to try out video now, super cool. So yeah, most recently in the last few years, we've printed a 20 to 25 page booklet, and we've digitized that for an easy shareable PDF online. The benefit of sharing your PDF digitally is you can add in hyperlinks and let people who really want to learn more about any certain area, they could click through to web pages that you have to learn more. So ours is just like an 8.5 by 5.5 sized piece, essentially hamburger fold. It's on nice stock paper. It's a good quality paper, but it does get mailed out. We print around 200 copies. It's not like we're mailing it to every member of our organization. We really pull like top donors, top partners. About 100 of those actually go out the door in the mail. And then we keep about 100 or so on hand just to give out for meeting a prospective donor for coffee. We could take one with us or help onboard board members and staff throughout the year. It's just nice to have kind of a stack around the office to pull from. It's not that expensive if you do it the size I just said. It's not like you have to get a really complicated printer to help with that. It's a pretty low cost, manageable way to do that. We handwrite notes and addresses on those as they're going out to donors and supporters, and try to customize that and make sure that they see it in their mail and want to look through it. Let's see. There's always a few rounds of revisions, like People First Economy share, like give yourself more time than you think you're going to need, because inevitably, if you're not, if you aren't the executive director or the final sayer of things, you want to give that person time to review and give feedback and have those revisions. We did, on recent years, on the printed version, include a remit envelope. So folks who are reading that again around our Giving Day campaign could send something back. But we also do what everyone's doing now and put a QR code on the back of it straight to the donate page too. So if they want to give online, they can, and make it really easy. Let's see what else. We keep access to all of our annual reports on our website. If you look at our About page, there's the last 7 or 8 years, I believe, annual reports and 990s there on our About page. So people can find that pretty easily. Staff can find it easily if they know that they want to share that out. They don't have to go digging around in file folders for that. It's just there on our website. We do in our, as we're releasing the report ahead of Giving Day, we do go in and create digital, more social media sized graphics from our top impact stats from throughout the report that go onto Instagram or Facebook, that are just bite-sized pieces, again, focusing on like one thing at a time that we can sprinkle throughout that whole week and share a little bit at a time. What we've learned, what others have learned from doing this, again, if you want people to read it, keep it short and simple, keep it sweet. keep it visual, show faces, show the people behind your work, humanize it. I love the charts that you all included in People First. I think I'm inspired to try to do some more pie charts in ours as well, to break down more easily like who our members are, what sectors they're from. I think all of that's really powerful just to look at one glance and see. I think, again, going back to like, how do you get people to read and pay attention, just comes back to timing, like really thinking through when it makes sense for you to share it out. It doesn't have to be January, it doesn't have to be February. You know, we don't release ours until May typically, which feels like, gosh, you know, you're already 5 months into the following year. But for us to be able to say, hey, we're still really proud of what we did and we're excited for what we're doing and have coming up this year, makes sense, that time frame. And it makes sense for us to know that we're dedicating our own airways, our team's capacity, our communications channels to really giving that a little bit of space instead of just dropping it in a newsletter and then going back to the next events or campaign. So I would give that advice of really thinking through when it makes sense for you to have it out there in the world. We do get it out into the community before summer because, you know, but we try to do it before schools break and everyone goes off vacation and spends all their money on vacation. We want to get our appeal out there before people vanish. So that's some of the strategy behind the timing on our end. The first few months of the year for us are really busy with our two biggest events of the year, fall in February and April. So for us to just be able to focus on those, do a little bit of the report throughout those months, but then, you know, really put the energy of it into May, just makes sense for our team. So think about the timing, think about how your audience lives and breathes throughout the year. If you've noticed trends, well, everyone vanishes in March, well, like release it in February or wait till they get back. Okay, the next few slides show a little bit more of an in-depth, and I'll make this full screen. Similarly to People First, we start with a letter from it's almost always our executive director. There have been instances where our board chair would do a letter instead, or they would co-author a letter. Pretty brief, nothing crazy long, but just a top gut feeling of how last year, the prior year was. Obviously, in recent years, a lot of the energy has been around the impacts COVID and the pandemic have had on our business community and how we've been, you know, taking a leadership role in that to help make sure they have the resources and tools they need. We did a big Grace Fund campaign in 2021 to create a pool of funds for members that couldn't afford to renew or join. There was always a fund there to help them do that and take advantage of our services and community. So a lot of the energy in this was around the idea of grace. This is 2021, so I should have shared that. This is 2021 annual report intro. We do a little bit of an overview of who we are, what makes us us. We try to balance, again, visual and text pretty equally with pictures from events or campaigns or our academy cohorts. You'll notice a little intro to what this program area was and a few bullet points of like impacts that were made or successes we had. And then a testimonial or quote from someone who was really involved in it or benefited from it.
Hey, Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan, I just wanted to jump in since we're getting a little close on time and I wanted to leave some time for questions.
Yes, perfect. I think this is really the last little image here around
awesome.
Balancing that data and story, showing a bit of points about our co-working space and a few testimonials of how people benefited from being a part of it. Same thing, we show our supporters ordered by amount, our membership, staff, a few high-level financial charts. And this is the back of our mailed piece, just to show you, like, we leave a lot of room for little notes and hand-addressed things and the QR code to get more involved. So that is that. I'm going to stop sharing. You can, like I said, you can access all of our annual reports on our website. If you go to the About Us page, they're linked there about halfway down that page. You can go back and look at our old thestateoflocal.org website versions that are a little wonky now and some things might be missing, but it'll give you an idea of how we structure that too. Thank you all.
Very cool. I also like just seeing all the work that everybody else is up to. That's impressive. You guys do a lot for sure. Well, we do have, I did want to save just a little bit of time for burning questions. And another nice thing is that these are all people in our network, in Amoeba's network. So maybe Kathleen and Mika and Jordan, if you want to drop your email into the chat. I like to think of it as paying it forward, because I've certainly received advice and given advice, and that's what we're here for after all. So I appreciate that. And of course, Jen can always play the matchmaker as well too. So any burning questions, thoughts around these annual
May I
reports?
ask a question?
Yes.
This is for all of you, but specifically to Mika and Kathleen. I really dug what you put together. I mean, what we're all really talking about is visual storytelling, right? And I noticed a reference, you know, a small section of what you were doing, like part of what you do is nurturing B Corps. And when I have helped with annual reports with nonprofits, I haven't done this for any nonprofits that I've started yet. Full disclosure, I want to apologize to you fine people for coming in late and having a toothbrush in my mouth and I totally was not expecting this to be a participatory kind of thing. And I tested positive for COVID on Tuesday, so I'm not myself anyway. So there's that. But I was hoping to learn from you all a little bit because I'm starting a new nonprofit. I'm doing it again. I've done several in the past. And I guess I wanted to know from Mika and Kathleen how much inspiration you might have taken from B Corp annual impact reports. You know, in today's era, you know, age of Moneyball, where everything's measurable, especially to donors and whatnot, you know, but any investor audiences, everything's got to be measurable, right? And I was wondering, you know, how that played into your storytelling and maybe answer that question in the context of something that Jennifer referenced in the chat thing about how you time out the release of information over the cycle of a year, because really it's an ongoing campaign, right?
Yeah, I can start, and certainly Kathleen, if you have anything to add, jump in. We do. So if I heard a couple different questions in there. So yes, we do.
And I'm wondering too,
all of them, but yeah, let me know if I don't answer something.
I'm jumping in because since we only have 3 minutes left in the call, we might not be able to give Michael a complete answer.
Sure.
But maybe some highlights, and then we can get to another question in the chat, and we can always connect later too.
Yeah, I'd be happy to chat one-on-one. I could talk about B Lab and B Corp certification all day. We do take a lot of inspiration from that community. They are a wonderful global organization, and we do take a lot of inspiration from the way that they format things and the way that they think about things. So I would love to have more of a conversation around that. Is there anything more specific that you wanted to know in the few minutes that we have?
Nah, it's my fault for coming in late, man.
Oh. All right, well, let's definitely touch base. I'd be happy to chat one-on-one.
Thank you, Mika.
Sure.
Absolutely. It looks like Michael's dropped his email in the chat as well. Great. And then we had another question from Liz about including financials in the report. That's an interesting question that I hadn't thought about yet, since we haven't done one yet. So
yeah, we have done that. The nice thing about including our annual report in our annual meeting is that it's typically we go over our financials at the annual meeting, and we talk about you know, what our big line items are, and then also what our sources of income are, and then we save that with our annual report presentation or annual meeting presentation.
Another question that I have too is, does anyone here use the logic model in helping communicate your impacts?
I'm not sure that I'm really familiar with the logic model. But if you have information on it, I can tell
Never
you.
mind, man. I just really, wow. Okay. If you would like to reach out to me, I put my email. I can send you a couple of examples, but it's a single page format, that at a glance, kind of like for-profit, where you've got the business model canvas on how it's laid out, like what they do in Silicon Valley. This is for nonprofits. And I was wondering if you were using it as a visual storytelling tool. Apparently not. So question answered. If you'd like to see examples of it, I'm happy to share.
We'll have to look into that. Like
Liz, it resonates with me, your question about different stakeholders being more comfortable or less comfortable sharing financials. And we have talked a lot about that internally as well. I think for us, there has certainly been leadership comfort has been a big part of us allowing ourselves to lean into that transparency, but it is not comfortable for all. So we've had internal conversations around how we share, like workforce numbers, different, like to what degree do we share compensation for our staff? To what degree are we sharing information about our various sources of funding? But we want to be as transparent as possible for our stakeholders because they're also an accountability source for us too. So if there is a need for our organization, we can also rely on those folks to help us bring in more member businesses or to talk about the value of supporting that. So anyway, just a super brief note on that, but we resonate with that. We're imperfect on it. And we've really consistently been dedicated to sharing our financials like the last 3 years.
I just ask because we have a lot of pass-through grants. So when you show the financials and it looks like you're making $800,000 a year and you're only actually making $3 million.
Right.
So I think we get a lot of pushback from the businesses in the district because they think we're making a ton of money. So I don't know if there's a way to break it out maybe, or but just a thought.
I have a question. Sorry, DW with Localite, and we're a public benefit corporation, and one thing we're planning to do is have a different version for different audiences, so our investors and stakeholders at the financial level, having a very detailed, very thorough version for them, but then a more accessible public version. I wanted to hear if you guys did something similar.
Gosh, I think what we have typically done is just do one or the other, or we have the video format or the print format. That's typically what we've done. But I think, Jordan, you mentioned like breaking it out in different pieces for social media. We've also done that. But beyond that, no, it would be lovely, I think, to do that, to have that catered to different audiences. But at this time, the capacity just isn't there, at least from my standpoint.
Yeah. Thank you. Good to see you again, Mika.
Yeah, you too. Nice to see you.
Liz, the only thought I have on that, it is something to consider for everyone here probably, but being honest about it, I think everyone will understand those things if you want to break it out or explain a little bit of that on the financials page of a report, like here's why this looks the way it does. And I think it's okay to give those reasons behind it. I think we've certainly had ebbs and flows of getting more funding from earned revenue one year and the next year having to rely on federal grants a lot more, and just being able to be transparent and honest about that, I think does help you relate to your community and also help them want to help support you when you need that support. So yeah, I think go for it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I know go ahead.
That's all right. I could talk for days on this. So stop me.
I know it's always tough. But kind of hoping we all got a sampling and a smattering and some inspiration and also some resources of where to go to when we're ready to dive in or have questions about these things. Because I know that I'll be picking up the phone or sending an email for sure. So just to kind of respect folks' times, you're welcome to stay on and I guess more questions, but I did drop in the chat kind of our next local leaders roundtable. I don't know, Jen, if you want to say anything about that for the local board passport, making technology work, or are we ready to wrap?
yeah, it's just an opportunity because we get so many pitches from folks looking for, you know, us to adopt different apps or different programs, and there lots of them are wonderful, but it's hard to field them all. So this is one of those opportunities to kind of learn more in a hopefully I'm going to try hard, in a non-salesy format, just to hear about the story of Localvore. The reason why I'm really excited to bring them on is because I worked a lot in Vermont, and they helped with an Everyone Eats program. So without going too much into it, it just was a really win-win for the state of Vermont, and they were critical in helping make that program happen in terms of the technology. So it's just a chance to kind of kick the tires for this app.
Gotcha. Well, awesome. Well, thanks everybody. We appreciate it. And I think we have many members on the call, but again, you know, benefits of Amoeba membership are plugging into our networks and sharing our best practices. So with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up and hope to see you guys next month. And thanks so much to our presenters for their wealth of knowledge and examples and inspiration, not only around annual reports, but everything that you guys do all year. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See you soon. Bye. Hey, Jen Risley, I have a quick question for you. Speaking of,